Some people call me the space cowboy. Yeah.
Howdy everybody, and welcome to Andy's Knowledge Report. These are closed-door, secret briefings about vital information about Scientology and the world that you need to know. I'm your host, Andy Nolch, the Space Cowboy, and today's Knowledge Report is about Access Consciousness, which is a spiritual group, a esoteric group, an occult group, a group of people who are interested in studying spiritual stuff, subjects that aren't really taught at school. Some religious schools would teach maybe Catholicism. I remember in high school I did, for 1 year I did religious education, and we might have learnt a bit about other religions, but I'm pretty sure there was a bit of, because it was a Catholic school, I mean honestly it was just a muck around class. It was one of those classes that you like, sort of drama where you just have fun in it. So honestly I can't even remember. So so I think we didn't do much learning. We had this funny American teacher, Mr. Bradley, and we'll talk about the Miami Dolphins. We'll go, you used to watch the Miami Dolphins, or something like that. No, we'll go, where was the Miami Dolphins from, sir? And then he'll go, so the Phoenix Elephants are from Phoenix, right? And then he would say, and the New York Mets are from New York, right? So where do you think the Miami Dolphins are from? Or something like that. Anyway, I'm being a bit funny today. I'm wearing a gown to give trolls a bit of material to attack me with, because I noticed that in the past they'd scrolled through my videos to early ones from ages ago where I had worn a gown just because I felt like wearing them, and they intentionally chose that footage to try and make me look silly. So I thought, hey, I haven't done a gown one for ages, so I might as well put a gown on so they don't have to scroll through all my videos and they can just see, here's the one. He's on the internet wearing a gown, or whatever it's called. Quite nice, actually. And here in Melbourne, I can wear them pretty much all year round. So I was saying how at school you learn about Catholic stuff and other religions a bit. You don't really learn that much about them. But you're not taught of the other religions, the more unusual ones. You're only really taught about the mainstream accepted religions. And it's kind of like the mainstream religions are kind of like the mainstream news, where they're all fairly similar. They're not really good quality news. And anything alternative isn't allowed on the TV. So with religious and spiritual studies, any religious or spiritual study or spiritual group that's alternative and different isn't featured in the education system. Like you're not going to find out about it in religious education class. And also you're not going to have spiritual science as like a subject, because they've got biology and physics, but they don't go into spirituality as an actual subject, because it really is a science and a subject. In an ideal world, and I'm sure out there on other planets, there are literally classes in school that talk about spirituality and what makes up a spirit and what happens when people die, and it's literally treated just like biology is treated here at school. But this does seem to be a giant conspiracy of a cover-up of our spirituality and that sort of stuff. So you just end up getting unusual little alternative groups starting up, and they never really become mainstream. And if they're starting to get popular and starting to become mainstream, then they get attacked very heavily, like what happened to Scientology, and they get like taken over by evil forces. And they shut it down so it doesn't become mainstream. So the forces of evil here on Earth are working hard to keep this place a prison and keep this place not spiritual, and to keep us dumbed down. They have to work at it, because if you stop banning people off Facebook, or stop having all these rules, or stop controlling what's on TV, these spiritual things, these alternative news sources, these alternative religions, they get popular and they take over, and everyone ends up finding out about our true spiritual nature. So they don't want that, possibly because they're wanting to enslave us and use us for other purposes. You don't want to have a smart cow, because a smart cow is hard to control. A dumb cow that's in a pen is much easier to milk. So anyway, so Access Consciousness is a little spiritual group. I don't know how many members it has. It might have as many as what Scientology has. It's a modern thing. It seems to have started within the past 15 years. And the reason I'm doing a review on it is because it was started by a person who was a former Scientologist or is a Scientologist. He's obviously, if he is a Scientologist, he's not an active one that's, really promoting independent Scientology and studying courses and, but he definitely did used to be involved with Scientology. And when I found that out, I thought, oh, that makes sense, because I kind of thought when I came across Access Consciousness, I kind of thought it wouldn't surprise me if this is if this is by a Scientologist. It's kind of like Avatar, like it's one of those sort of those groups where they're doing unusual spiritual things and people are finding out interesting things. Now, it seems to be quite different to Scientology. Whereas Avatar is, the similarities are more obvious. I don't know too much about Access Consciousness. All I know is that I have done what they call a bars run. You have your bars run, and someone just sits with you for an hour and touches parts of your head, and it releases energy out of your head. And when I first did it, I just thought, I'll try this. And I did it for only 20 minutes because I did just a sample of it. I felt tired. I felt like, whoa, what was that? Like, it released, I could tell it, and I know, like, it's hard to, I know someone who doesn't know anything about spirituality will be like, you just did something and it made you feel tired. Maybe it was doing something bad to your mind. I wouldn't do that again. For me, I know that just because you felt tired after doing something, it doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. I could tell it was releasing stuff, and I think it was actually relaxing me and keying me out or something, but it was doing something. And I was like, whoa, because after it I was just like, whoa, what was that? It definitely did something. And apparently they touch different parts of the head, and one point releases stress, one point releases emotion or sadness, one point releases confidence or something like that. And literally they work from each point to each point, and the people who do it are really switched on and spiritual. Like they have some sort of tech and they know what they're doing, and it works and it releases energy. And so the people who do it, they do it like at least who are actually practicing access consciousness regularly, they do it like at least once a week, and they say they need to do it every week to keep themselves keyed out. Basically, they don't use those words, but it seems really good. But that's just the basic bars, which is like, I guess, the beginning of it, and then there's all this other stuff, and so people learn how to deliver it, and they charge like $120 for an hour. So it's good money that they make. And I think people who are like massage therapists are into it because they learn it as well and they do it on people. But they also do entity removal, which is interesting. So they also seem to be spiritual, and they're switched on to entities. And they I think you can get some entity removal while you're getting your bars run at the same time, or you can just do entity removal. And they have these weird things that they say that obviously puts the idea out into the matrix and changes it. Like they'll say stuff like, this, I haven't done this one, by the way. I've just done the bars, and I've done entity removal while I'm doing the bars. Like I just said, hey, let's do some entity removal as well. And so because they're aware of it or whatever, they somehow, when they're sitting with me, they don't even say anything, but they somehow clear out entities while they're doing the bars thing. Because we've all got entities in or around us or whatever. And so, but they've got these chants and stuff that I've heard on the internet. I've listened to some of them, and they're interesting. And like I wouldn't call them chants, but they're just like things that you say, like I guess prayers, and they'll be like, all entities in the room, go back and never come back again. Haka paka paka paka. Like they've got words like that mean something. Like I know it sounds totally ridiculous, right? But they go puckin pucka nana bada bada. Like I don't know what these words are that they have, but you say them and stuff, and I guess it clears the room of entities and all that sort of stuff. And this sort of stuff is pretty normal. I mean, you got South American rituals and stuff, like the people who do the ayahuasca ceremonies. I don't know what the South Americans are saying during those ceremonies, but they prepare for them, and they have like little candles going on, and they're chanting, and they're going, and they're listening to, I don't know, South American music, and then they say stuff like blah, 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 blah in the South American language or whatever. And I imagine they're saying stuff that's similar. They're probably saying stuff like spirits come in, good spirits and gods come in, and bad entities leave. They're probably saying stuff like that. Anyway, so what I'm basically trying to say that like access consciousness aren't that silly to be talking about entities and getting them to leave the room and stuff. So the bars run, I really recommend that. And if I could get it for a good price, or if I knew someone or something like that, I would love to do it once a week, every week. I think it's definitely important to keep yourself keyed out, because there's technology around, there's all these things designed to key you in and degrade you and stuff, and you have to, like practicing OTTR0, which I recommend in your own time, you sort of need to do these things to keep yourself in best shape possible, to stop yourself from becoming a slave. You can skip doing all these things, and you can skip detoxing and getting your bars run, or practicing TR0 or doing yoga. You can skip all those things, but you're just going to go more and more into a robotic way of thinking and become more and more a slave, and you won't be as uptone as you could be and as switched on as you could be, and you won't have as many realizations, and you'll be manipulated more, basically, because there's a lot of manipulation going on here on Earth. And so if you want to rise above that, you got to do these things. So I recommend getting your bars run. If you're going to get them run, ask about getting some entities removed as well. They're kind of funny. I remember when I spoke to them about entities, they kind of acted a little bit like Scientologists, in that that's obviously their higher level stuff, that like they don't like to talk talk to people about who are new to this sort of stuff, because it can really ARC break people. And so I remember when I started talking to one of the persons, they were a bit like, I could tell they were like, like what should I say? But then I think I might have said something like, no, I know about entities and all that sort of stuff because of Scientology, and I'm cool with it. But they still didn't tell me much. So there's probably a lot of stuff they know that they're not allowed to say, but they just basically mentioned that they know about entities and they clear them away, and that was it. But they could have some really cool, interesting information in their higher levels and in their secretive levels and stuff. I mean, I'm not sure. Yeah. So, and I would also recommend, and this is something that I've done in my own time, is I've just looked it up on YouTube. I've just found out these things that they say, these prayers is probably a good word to say it, or affirmations or whatever, might be the right word. But you can just find them on YouTube, and I've listened to some, and these are the entity clearing ones, where they'll say, any entities in the room or any entities around you affecting your universe, go back and never come back again. Don't affect me again, or whatever, and just stuff like that. Anyway, I've listened to them a few times. I still have a few more to listen to, and I've listened to them, like, they seem to go for like maybe 10 minutes, but you listen to them on repeat again because you try and get flat on them. Because I noticed that that's what would happen. It was like you do it the first time and it would be obviously affecting the entities or something, and then you got to run it out, and so you listen to it a few more times or whatever. This is just totally my creation. It's probably what they do, but this is just my guess of what it seems like you're supposed to do, is you're supposed to listen to it on repeat. Because I remember hearing one thing mention that. But you listen to the thing on repeat, and then, like, I guess until you get all the entities out of your universe or whatever. But I noticed that was fairly interesting, because I would have case phenomena going on while that was happening, because obviously it was biting, like, you know, like an objective process bites, which basically means affects you. So I remember one time, and I've already mentioned this in something else, but not everyone listens to all my stuff, so I'll just repeat it again. But I was listening to one of these chants things, and I noticed that I couldn't quite follow along with it. I was sort of going out of PT because stuff was going on, and then as it got more and more flat, I could listen to more of it, and I was like, oh wow, they mentioned that, and they mentioned that. It was like unconsciousness was going away from me, so that then I could just sit there and listen to it and actually be aware and not go out of PT and become unconscious or whatever. So obviously it helped to clear out entities out of my universe. So I think that's fairly interesting. It's after I did it, it wasn't suddenly like the next day I was like amazing or anything like that. Like I didn't notice like a sudden amazing change or whatever. But I do think that it was good. So I was like, oh, these people are really good. And I don't have time to get involved with Access Consciousness, and I've already got my own religion and that sort of stuff. But it does seem like a cool group. It does seem like they've got good tech. It was created by there was two guys who created it. One of them was a former Scientologist. It seems beneficial. People seem to make good money doing it, which is great. So it's kind of like someone who's you got a Scientology auditor. They make like, if you do it independently, they can make $120 an hour. They can make $150. They can make $80 an hour. It sort of depends. But it's kind of similar price, because they were charging like $120 an hour, and you can get an auditor that charges $120 an hour. So you got to think about these things as career options, because I just hear time and time again things that would make for a good career. Because I think about people who were brought up in the woke world, and like because the economy is going fairly poorly. they don't have all these sort of great jobs to choose from and stuff. And, things are fairly crappy. And so it's just like, what are they going to do career-wise? And it's just like, hey, why don't you become an auditor? Why don't you become one of these access consciousness people, And you can make good money, and what you're doing is beneficial to humanity, and it's not a rip-off, and it's not contributing to anything bad. You're helping enlighten the world, and it's pretty cool. So it's just like, if you're in that little box, that Wog World box, you just don't see much possibility in options and like, what am I going to do career-wise? And you don't see all these things. But then if you just keep on studying and do Scientology and waking up, you're just like, whoa, I can do this, 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 So there's heaps of different things that you can do. So you need to think about that. If you don't have a career at the moment, you think about starting up some sort of career. So I don't know what, I guess out of 5 stars, what would I give Access Consciousness? I don't know, maybe 3 stars or something. I just haven't done enough of it, but I do just think it's something good, something worthwhile. And this is what happens when L. Ron Hubbard and his technology helps people and improves them and sets them free. They then go off and they create interesting things like Access Consciousness. So it's like an indirect way that Scientology helps bring about an improvement in the world and a mass awakening. So I think that's all I want to say. I'm going to put a link in the comment section if anyone wants to try Access Consciousness or something like that. I'll put a link to their website. Or maybe a video of what it's about. So yeah, that's all. This is a sort of shortish video. I don't have too much to say. Yeah. So, and also if you're wondering, if you're a Scientologist, I wouldn't massively get into it, but I would get my bars run at least once or twice. I think you've done it. I probably had my bars run maybe 7 times in total, and I just reckon it's cleared junk out of my mind. And these are some of the things I've done since leaving the church that have just improved my case just massively. Like the tons of yoga that I've done is very good for my case. It's just, the Access Consciousness thing. I've seen this other guy that presses a certain part of your neck and you basically pass out, but it resets your whole body and your nervous system, and it really keys you out. And I noticed a definite change the next week, and it stayed that same. It stayed permanently after he did this thing, and I've had that done maybe 12 times. But there's definite tech out there. There's other things you can do that are really beneficial that can help you. It's not all about Scientology. So don't be afraid to just get your bars run. I wouldn't run off and get involved with them and drop Scientology, because from my brief looking into it, I just don't think that the creators were as much of a genius as L. Ron Hubbard. I don't think that you can have as much as the wins as are possible in Scientology. Sort of the same reasons why Avatar, I don't think you should run off and spend all this time on Avatar. I think you should do it. And if you can do both, do it. But don't take Avatar or Access Consciousness over Scientology. I'd say keep Scientology and then add in stuff from other things that can improve you and benefit you. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for listening. I've been your host, Andy Nolch, the Space Cowboy. You've been listening to an Andy's Knowledge Report. So until next time, get up that bridge.
Some people call me the Space Cowboy. Yeah.